Perfect. Thanks, Debbie. Hello, everyone. So thank you for joining us in today's Lunch and Learn, where I'll be talking you through all the new and exciting capabilities within the customer engagement platform that Microsoft are releasing. Now, just as a disclaimer, I am going to be saying the C word a lot in this presentation, so someone do take count because I'll be interested to see how many. And that, I know not that C word is actually going to be Copilot. So it's a common theme, and we've obviously seen Microsoft investing heavily in sort of the AI space, and it's naturally added and infused into the release and updates that they're pushing through into the platform. So with that said, to introduce myself, so I'm Shilan Kimani. I'm the D365 Customer Engagement Specialist at HSO. So my role is to really understand what the customer engagement platform release capabilities are, working with customers, moving through sort of their requirements, understanding what they're trying to achieve and what they're trying to get to, and how we can help with the platform, obviously hosted by the lovely Debbie as well. So before we get started, I just wanted to point you through some resources that will be quite useful for anyone who wants to read up on some of the Wave release features that Microsoft have published. So I'll put through some links into the deck, which will show you what Microsoft are releasing against each and individual module. So the one on the left-hand side is a nice interactive release planner that Microsoft have on one of their websites, where you can scan through, look at all the different modules and look at all the release wave notes that they've published, as well as looking at and tagging different release updates that may be of use to you or might be of interest to you as well. So I do advise having a look through that, because this is where Microsoft do a lot of their updates and push any latest news on dates, when it's going to be publicly available, or if it's going to be in a preview, and essentially what the features are going to be about. The right-hand side is a nice little blog which Microsoft have recently released, so feel free to have a read of that. So again, it's just talking through some of the highlights of the Wave release that we're expecting to see in a couple of months, or throughout the next few months. And then at the bottom is the link to the 400 odd page document that I unfortunately have the pleasure of reading. But the purpose of this webinar is that you don't have to read all of those. I'm just going to point out some of the top key areas that I think might be of use and might be of interest to a lot of you guys. So with that said, I'm going to go to the first module that we wanted to cover off, and that is going to be customer insights. Now, for those who are not familiar with Customer Insight, this is essentially the marketing application within D365. So the first feature I wanted to pull out that's coming out as part of the Wave release is the collection of extra customer data without creating custom attributes. So what this feature is actually doing is, if, for instance, we've got a web form, we want to capture some specific information from our contacts, let's say, or leads. Let's say, for instance, we're doing an event, we're hosting, and we're providing some food. So we want to capture people's meal preferences, any allergies, dietary requirements, etc. Now, if we don't have a field for that in the system, then we weren't able to capture that information. So as part of the process, we'd have to create a field, publish it, and then allow it to be presented within these forms. Microsoft have seen that as well. What typically happens is you get those one-off requirements where you need to capture a field for a specific reason. It's never used again. You then end up with a lot of clutter and unused and redundant fields in the system. They're actually now looking at creating these ad hoc fields into the forms to be able to capture this information for that exact very reason. So without having to go into the back end and creating new data fields into the system, we'll be able to do that. So within the front end, without having to rely on admin at the moment. So how that's done is unclear at this point in time, but it's a feature that they're looking to roll out, which is very exciting, and definitely looking forward to seeing how they're going to do that one, because I can see many uses for that. The next one I wanted to talk around is the feature around generating leads that link to existing contacts. So on the same topic of forms, when we submit forms in Customer Insights currently, you can do them associated to leads or contacts. Now, the problem that you may face is that there may be an existing record in the system, maybe an existing contact record, maybe an existing lead record in the system. However, the way they've come through is through these forms, and it may have created a duplicate. Now, they've enhanced this feature by allowing you to do a few things. It could be that you may want to provide the option to update existing contact records. So if they're submitting their details and we've already got some details with it associated to them, things like phone number, the methods on the matching rules or in the update rules will allow us to control what we want to do with that change, whether we want to keep the existing record or do we want to update it from the form submission to maintain our data, but also wherever that data is linked. So if a lead is connected to a contact, then do we want to update both records? Do we want to update one of them? This will then just help with our system data, maintaining it, making sure it's clean, avoiding any duplicates. And also allowing us to set sort of default target audiences onto the form as well. The next one is getting insights on email engagements with heat map analytics. So for those who have been familiar with the marketing or the customer insights tool from Dynamics, you would have remembered that previously Microsoft had essentially 3 different areas of marketing. They've had outbound marketing, which is your more traditional campaigns. Then you had more real-time marketing, which was sort of the newer marketing engine, which will allow us to orchestrate quite a lot of complex and real-time journeys. And then you've got your event management piece. Now, Microsoft had started to make a transition of that outbound marketing into the real-time one. And one of the features was the heat map analytics that we had in the outbound marketing piece. So what Microsoft have now done is now looking to transition that capability into the real time to allow us to then get those really insightful insights into how customers are interacting with those emails that we're sending out, whether they're the links that we're looking at, so the click-through rates, the heat map of where people are clicking on, is a specific imagery that they think is an actual link, the filters of those heat maps, so understanding sort of the email version or journey version that we need to do. So all of these analytics, again, is feeding back into the great insights that marketing have to be able to understand how people are interacting with the content that they're sending out to the contacts in the system. And the next I wanted to cover off is waiting on segment members to trigger next steps in a journey. So with this one, it's really around how you want to orchestrate your segments and journeys within the platform. So to give you an example, as I've got a journey, I want to send people through and send automated comms at the right and the most appropriate time. Let's say someone's a new customer. Let's say they've got a card that they've received. In this case, the screenshot is showing a credit card. So we've got a new customer who's going through a journey. We've sent them a new activation card email. However, we want to allow us to put a condition in place to make sure that before we send them a follow-up email, such as a welcome one, we want to make sure that they've activated the card first. So this is where we can use and create a separate segment to make sure that we've got a view of all those contacts who have already got their card activated. And then using that segment, allow us to apply the if-then capability or attribute to then funnel them through to the right path. So if someone has got the activated card, also if someone has added and activated their card and they're into that segment, they follow the yes path. So then they get a thank you for joining and here's your welcome email. Whereas if they haven't, then you may want to send up a follow-up or a reminder to let them know that they still need to activate their card, as an example. That's one scenario, but there's many different other scenarios that we could use for these as well. But just again, giving us a lot of greater flexibility into how we want to target our customers, how we want to segment them into different groups, and what type of communications we want to send at different points within the journey. So those are sort of I think it was 4 different areas that I pointed out, but that's only a handful of the different features that are coming out within customer insights. This is specifically journeys. So if there are any that you want to specifically focus on, I'm more than happy to walk you through any of the additional ones that we see on screen. But if I went through everything today, we'd probably be here for the rest of the afternoon. So I'm just going to move on to sort of the next slide. But if there's anything that you need to get further information on, either have a look at the release notes on the Microsoft website, or feel free to reach out to us and we'll be able to walk you through any other ones that might have caught your eye. So the next area that I wanted to cover off is sales. So here's where the Copilot stuff starts happening. So the first one I wanted to start talking about is this Copilot email assistance capability. So some of you might have noticed Copilot being infused into your environments, and it's here to stay. It's not going to go anywhere. But one of the capabilities that Microsoft have started to introduce is this email assistance capability, which is essentially a language model that's used to help generate emails based upon the context of the context of the record or email thread that you're in. So what that means is if you've got a long email thread of conversations going back and forth, or it's in relation to a record, like an opportunity, for instance, in Salesforce, where you use Copilot, it will help you generate your email using those contextual bits of information to then get the message across to what you're trying to what will generate an email to get you started on what the message is that you're trying to get across. Now from here you can obviously make an amendment of what the email output is from Copilot. So you may like what the initial draft copy it provides, or you may want to tailor it or even amend it. So this is where you can add additional prompts. So you may want to ask it to include X, Y, and Z, or actually change the tone or format, or even the length of the email as well. So using all of these different capabilities, it will then help you craft the email as appropriately as possible, but also within the context of the record and within the lines of how you're communicating with the customers. So you're essentially getting a bit more productive in how you're generating your emails and content back to the customer. The next one, and I think this is a really useful one that will get quite a lot of people's attention, is the 360-degree view of your account and AI generated summaries. So when dealing with any accounts, as an account manager, as a seller, you'd always want to know what's happening, what's the latest with that account, who's interacting with them, not only just from a sales perspective, but also from the wider organization. So do we have any open customer service tickets with them? Do we have anything around marketing? Are they a lead? Do we have any opportunities? Are there multiple sellers involved in the account? All of these bits of information, people would normally need to go into the account, search for the different information, the tabs, the related records to get all of that. Now, with Copilot there, it's so much easier to be able to generate and get that information within the record. So on the right-hand side, you can see here that you've got a summary of all of the different areas and related records of the accounts. In this case, we can see account summaries. We've got an overview of cases and the statuses and which cases there are further down. You can then also break it down into sort of leads and who those leads are associated with, the statuses of those leads, are they hot, cold, and then drive and drill into each one of those records as well. So this way you can then quickly and easily get up to speed with what's happening with the account, all the relevant information I can drive into to get that lower level detail, but it's getting me much quicker and up to speed with everything that's happening, so I can have those real useful conversations to our customers without having any information sort of hidden away from me that I wasn't aware of. And onto that, I just want to move on to the next one, which is staying efficient with Copilot overview page. So very similar to how we saw Copilot being interactive with a specific account record, this is now looking at it from more of a overview perspective of the seller's experience. So where you've traditionally had things like dashboards to give them an overview of the type of work that they're dealing with, whether it's their activities that they've got on, their pipelines, any customers that they're going to see, all of that sort of great stuff. We're now starting to see Copilot being more of that interactive experience and almost like a dashboard type experience to help get the seller to understand where they are with the records that they're dealing with. So the screenshot that we're seeing on screen is looking at suggested actions. So using AI to present recommended next steps on any of the deals that they may be working on. On the right hand side, we've got things like graphics to show what their pipeline is looking at versus all their targets and what their actuals are. So how far are they away from meeting their targets that have been set? What deals are being affected? And then how long have they got until their target runs out, and when they need to close those opportunities by? Things like opportunities that they need to focus on. So any ones that are creeping up with estimated closure dates, any updates to their account, all the useful stuff that a seller will need on their day-to-day basis. They'll be able to use these dashboards to be able to get a quick view of what their workload is, but also ask a load of questions. They may want to drive into a specific opportunity, may want to get updates on an account. Copilot will be there for them to be asked. They'll be able to ask those questions to Copilot, and they'll present the information back to them. So rather than searching for it, ask questions to Copilot and it'll generate the response back to them. The next one is analyzing the opportunities within grouping and aggregating. So those who are familiar with this experience, which is the D365 opportunity, the dynamic opportunity-based experience, this will allow them to, first of all, see their funnel and pipeline on the top of the top half of the form. But on the bottom half, where we've got the subgrids, this is where sellers can then start to aggregate and dissect the information with these group filters. So from the screenshot we've seen here, based upon the columns, I'm able to then select which column I want to group by. In this case, it's an estimated close date, and we can define what the values that we want to do it by. And because it's a date, it's giving me the options of whether we want to group it by days, months, quarter, year. So that helps us then understand and group which records are being associated to what attributes, and giving us a better idea of drilling down into what we're doing within opportunities. Other examples is you may have multiple opportunities associated to an account. We can group those against the account to understand what business are we trying to close within which accounts, how much revenue is being generated from each one of those, and so on. So again, quick way of helping them dissect, understand all the different types of ways that they want to aggregate the customer information to then understand what they need to do to close. So once again, there's a whole host of other sales capabilities that have been rolled out or looking to be rolled out from now to March. So feel free to look at the release guide on the sales area within the release planner as well. And here are the ones that we haven't covered off, but again, you can see that AI is a common theme through all this, and productivity. So the next one is customer service. So within the customer service, so sticking on the sort of the topic of Copilot, as a customer service agent, they're dealing with a load of requests coming in from customers, different formats. It may be via live chat channels, it may be through the phone, it may be through email. Now, with Copilot already always available to the agents, what happens is on the left-hand side of that experience, the Copilot will always be running and analyzing and understanding the context of the conversation or case record, and start to provide prompts on terms of what sort of information may be helpful to be able to provide the answer to the question that's being asked or the issue that's been raised. So it may be that there may be an issue with an item that they bought. The prompts will then help suggest what knowledge-based articles or what questions that need to ask to be able to then help get the relevant information back. It will also do follow-up questions as well. So in this case, I might be looking at a question on what the order status is for this specific customer, but then the Copilot will then say, well, you may want to check what's on the shipping date. So it's giving me a prompt to say, how do I check the shipping date and shipping delays? So again, it's helping drive the customer service agent to answers based upon the context of how the conversation is going or the context of where the case is at. Again, really, it's all about trying to drive and get to the answer as quick as possible, and suggesting the sort of next follow-ups and all the next best actions, which almost sort of relates to the next one, which is around enabling the Copilot plugins to connect with external data sources. So in the context of a contact center, they'll be working within the customer service environment. However, a lot of the times you'd see that information is actually kept in other systems, whether it's back office ERP systems, whether it's in other systems that are niche. The fact is that the agents will need to go and navigate into those other systems to get the information they need. Classic example, order information, for instance, that may be sitting within an ERP system, so they'll need to log into there to find out what's happening with the latest order and so on. However, that's all looking to change with the introduction with these what Microsoft deem as agents, which essentially allows you to create prompts to then do automated actions to then give you back an answer. So to put that into context, you may be a contact service agent and you may have to query a system, let's say your ERP system, to find order information. Without having to navigate from the experience, they can ask Copilot that question. Copilot agent will then go ahead and fetch that information from the ERP system and provide that information back. Now, that's great because it allows me to then query within one place and get the information back from the data source that it's been held in. But you also got potential issues of authentication. But then this is where Microsoft have also factored that in as well to make sure that you're only getting and fetching information from data sources that you have access to based upon your authentication level. So in this case, we can see on the right hand side or the left hand side that when you're asking the question, if you haven't got authentication, then you won't be able to receive the response. However, you can have an agent level account, which you can have access to, or you can have supervisor level where they can have additional access to information so they can get a much more higher level of information back from those third-party systems as well. So again, controlling the security of what information we're pulling and pushing from systems, but essentially it's there to help and provide assistance to that customer service agent and unify that experience for them to be able to get the answer very quickly back to the customer. The next one is viewing handling time on cases. So depending on your organization and how you handle cases, this feature is really down to whether it's applicable or not. So in the new Rave release, what they've released is this timer capability on the right hand side. So it allows you to start tracking how much active time people are spending on a case, whether it's outside of when a case was logged and resolved. This is actually the effort that's been done within the system. So these timers will then help agents to record start and stop times of when they're actively working on a case, which will then help supervisors start to evaluate the actual average handling time of a ticket and how that reflects upon types of cases that have been coming in, which will then optimize some of the operational type activities such as routing and allocating and associating tickets to the correct people based upon what the effort actually is versus just typical start and close SLAs that we've got. So again, there's different ways of these timers being logged through activities and manual logs and automatically being calculated. So again, it's a feature that's available which can then potentially help get and drive those lower level insights into the operations within the contact center. And the next one, on the basis of contact center, things come in. A lot of people will communicate to the contact center through issues, topics, but these topics may be reoccurring. There may be an issue that have suddenly occurred, and you may want to essentially notify all the agents at the same time. What the updating knowledge-based management capability does is based upon a real-time insight and analysis of all the cases that are coming in, it will then start to draft a knowledge base article. So there may be an emerging issue that's happening, the system has detected it. It's going to suggest to the agent create a knowledge base article, which then within a few minutes that can be published to the wider contact center. So anyone else who's receiving those type of requests will have resources available to them to be able to help and answer and respond back to those type of emerging issues. Again, this is now saving a lot of time on creating content to prevent these questions being asked, or these content can then obviously be published externally through the likes of portals as well. But the idea is that it's shortening the time of sharing information from agents to the wider team to be able to then react to these quick and high volume issues that may occur. I think one thing to also mention on this is that when the Copilot generates the content, it will also scrub any sensitive data out. So anything around names or personal information, it will not use any of that, and it will generalize a lot of the content that it produces as well. So just one thing to sort of keep into consideration as well. And then, like everything, there's loads of other features within the customer service area. You've also got the new contact center again, which has a whole host of features as well. But if there's anything that you want to sort of speak to me about, more than happy to have a further conversation on that. Now, the last area I wanted to touch upon is field service. And the first one I wanted to talk about is this remote assist and mixed annotations in Teams capability. So when we look at field service, we've got engineers out down the road. They may get stuck on certain areas or don't know what to do in certain situations. Rather than them going back and then revisiting the customer, using things like remote assist will help with quickly diagnosing issues and trying to essentially get that first time fix done there and then. And the way they'll do that is through the field service app and through the remote assist. It will leverage Microsoft Teams, very much like how we share our screens when we're using Teams. It will present on the left hand side. That's the view of the engineer, where they can start to use things like pens and arrows to point to what they're talking about. And then from a back office perspective, those agents will be able to see exactly that and also contribute to that as well. So they may want to draw and circle areas that they want the engineer to focus on, or do certain actions. Again, all of that collaborative space is being driven through the Teams and D365 field service application to then help with that collaboration without actually having to switch to different applications. And then the next point is around the improvements to the schedule board. So for those who have used the schedule board, it's a great tool. It does a lot of really clever and great things for anyone who's a technician or dispatcher. But what Microsoft have done is looked at how it's been built and are now changing it so it's now future-proof. Now, what that means is the schedule board at the moment, as it stands, is built upon JavaScript, but now they're transitioning it into React. So it allows them to be more responsive, more user-friendly, more intuitive. It also then future-proofs the architecture underneath as well. So any latest technology enhancements that are being released within the React space, Microsoft will be able to utilize that, and it also helps with the maintenance and upgradability of the platform and the schedule board as well. So that will allow the schedulers to then have essentially added benefits around in performance. So load times, reacting to fast schedules, heavy loading as well. So all of these different things can then be naturally impacted by moving off from that JavaScript technology into the React space, which then also allows them to be able to add more usability and modernization improvements. So this could be things like working days of the week selectors, number of weeks, being able to put lines and visibility of those lines on working days and working weeks, and also accessibility improvements as well to make sure that anyone who is using the schedule board has the correct accessibility features as well. So a lot of great things by doing this transition. It means that they can now bring in a lot more other features within the schedule board. So we should hopefully see more and more updates and features on that moving forward in the other releases. And then Copilot, once again, summarizing work orders from a mobile app perspective. So this is where, taking the example of a technician out there on the road, they receive a job, they look at that job, and in order to understand what that job is, they need to go into the job that's been allocated, click into the different tabs, to then get an idea of what it is that they've been allocated. Now, using Copilot, they can use these summary features to be able to give them a holistic view of what is it that they're doing, who are they visiting, who's the contact, what type of job that they're doing, are there any products that they need to do. So again, it's giving them a whole summary within a few clicks, as opposed to clicking through different tabs to fetch this information. And this is available through sort of the new user interface that Microsoft is starting to introduce on the mobile app. But for those who are using the older one still, it's again very much available from that perspective as well. And they're also introducing things like updates as well. So looking at how you can use Copilot to type what you've done as part of your updates, and then it will go and perform those actions into the system. So things like consume stock, any notes that you might want to add, and so on, and then closing off things like the status is. And then finally, that just leads me on to this one here, which is, again, there's a load of other features available within the field service space that we're looking to see and get rolled out. So here's the ones that I haven't covered off today, but if there's any other further questions, I'm more than happy to address any of them. So that's everything I wanted to cover off today. I know it's quite a lot of information to absorb. There's still a load of other really great features that's available. But if I had to go through everything today, as I said, we'll probably be here all afternoon. So thank you for your time. Any questions?
I've got one, please, Shilin. When do the features drop?
So they will all drop at different times. So depending on the type of feature, Microsoft have different release dates. So they'll start from October right through to March, and some of them will drop at different statuses. So some of them may just be public preview, some of them may be general release, but those will all be very much different and based upon a feature by feature basis. The best place where I always double check to make sure that I've got the latest dates is just going back to that release planner, is giving us an exact date of when Microsoft are looking or planning to release those features, and what type of status is it going to be? Is it a public preview? Is it a general availability? But this gives us a good indication of when we expect to start to see these things rolled out into environments.
And finally, are all the features in current licenses?
Again, it's very similar to the features being dropped. It's very much on a feature by feature basis. Microsoft don't announce at this stage what is available at what licenses, but given my experience and seeing how they've done it in the past, a lot of these tend to be done and available within the enterprise licenses. There may be some caps on certain features, but a lot of the time, a lot of these features will be covered within the enterprise. But once they're gone live and once Microsoft understand how they're going to be licenses, then it will all be then published, and we can obviously help support you with any of those questions as well.
Okay, I've got a question here. How is Copilot draft email different from what is available today?
So the one available today is actually a preview feature. So it's not the GA one, which Microsoft are now introduced now. So the one now should have those additional features such as the different tones, etc. But then also it should start learning more and more around the type of context and how you write your emails as well. So the learning will start to kick in, and it should draft them more and more appropriately to the organization and your sort of wording and branding. So the next session that we've got is the 21st of November, where we've got Biz Apps, server end-to-end, end of life, how to seamlessly transition your business to Microsoft Azure, which will be hosted by my lovely colleagues Stephen Simons and Mark Abrahams. And then on the 31st of November, we've got What's New and Exciting in D365 Unified Operations Wave 2 release by Chris Tilley. So feel free to sign up to both of those, because they will definitely be exciting and worth attending.